The story kicks off with a rather steamy moment, but it all comes falling apart for our hero, who wakes up to realize this was just a dream. He isn't too surprised by this because he has lived all his life as a loser boy, but then he panics upon realizing that he has overslept. At first, he believes that he might be late for work, but then it hits him that he has actually taken 2 days off, so he's in the clear. Now we learn that his name is Yamai Zenjirou, who is just like any other man earning a monthly salary. He has been working in a shady company that is known to force its workers to work for over 150 hours a month, and that too on overtime. It's been a while since Yama has had 2 days on the go without having to do any work, so he feels very relaxed. He considers watching all of the DVDs that have been piling up at his place, but then he figures that he could be making much better use of his time. For example, he could take a trip to some place far away where he has never been before. However, he chooses not to go ahead with that plan, because if he was such a decisive boy, then he wouldn't have such a hard time choosing what to do in the first place. Our hero laughs about this for a while, but then he rides his cycle from the real world into some kind of fantasy dungeon. In front of him is a cute and curvy girl who has a couple of guards standing right next to her. This confuses our hero, especially when the girl addresses him as her groom. Yama has no idea what's going on, so he tries to stay calm while being in front of such a pretty girl. It's easy for him to let his intrusive thoughts run wild, but then he figures that he should focus on analyzing the situation first, and then thinking on what kind of decision to make based on the information at hand. The first thing he does is check his lunch, which is still warm, meaning that he is not in a dream. However, the babe in front of him is the same one he was doing unspeakable things with in his fantasy dream earlier today. This is very confusing for Yama, so he has no other option but to choose a safe way out. He bows down to the pretty lady and tells her sorry for intruding into her space. This is typical for an average salaryman to do, so Yama hopes he can get out of trouble now. With that, he tries to exit the scene, but only finds a whole bunch of knights blocking his way. Yama panics as these guards come closer and even point their weapons at him, as if to say that he is now a prisoner over here. These are not fake spears either, so Yama starts to think that he's gotten himself into a huge mess. Luckily for him, the pretty lady orders the knights to lower their weapons, and they do so without any kind of hesitation at all. Now, to everyone's surprise, the curvy babe bows down to our hero and says sorry for bringing him here without his consent. It is understandable that he is at a loss after seeing what's going on over here, so she explains that he is in a fantasy world, and this is her palace. Yama still doesn't know how this is going to help his situation, so he just nods along for now. The girl says that since he would like to know more about this world and understand why he has been brought here, it would be better for her to take him to some other place where she can explain how this whole thing has come about. Now Yama is taken around the palace, and he is shocked to see how big and impressive it is. He is unable to believe that such a place even exists, especially because his own apartment is nowhere near this mansion. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even feel like he is in Japan anymore. Now that she has given him a tour, the pretty lady makes an introduction and reveals her name to be Ora Capua. She would very much like for Yama to call her Ora, and then our hero also gives her his full name. Since she would like to be friendly with Yama, she asks if she can refer to him as Zenjirou Dono, which he doesn't seem to have a problem with. Now, Ora goes on to tell Yama about the chain of events that have led him to this situation. She warns him that he may get upset over what she says, and may even consider her reckless for doing this. But he does have a choice. If he does not like how things are over here, then she will simply return him to his normal world, where he can continue living the loser life he has always known. It will be as if such a thing never even happened in the first place. Ora swears her honor on this, so Yama decides to hear her out for now. It's not like there's much he can do about this anyway, so he decides to treat this like a customer complaint, so that he can get each and every point that Ora is about to say. She kicks things off by telling Yama that he is in the continent of Rando Rion, which is also known as the Southern Continent. The name of this kingdom happens to be Capua, and Aura's palace is right in the middle of the imperial capital city. Yama follows along, but he has never heard of such a place in his life. This is when Aura tells him that it's fine for him to feel this way, because this is what he would call another world in his lingo. Yama takes a moment to register this because it does sound a bit ridiculous. He gives Aura a very sarcastic look, and then he even starts laughing because he does not believe what she has just told him. He even asks her not to make fun of him, so Aura decides to try another way. She asks him to come closer to her, so he does as she says, but then a monster shows up right in front of him out of the blue. The monster even looks at our hero with spite in its eyes, so Yama panics upon seeing such a deadly beast. He falls to the floor and asks Aura what this is, so she laughs and explains that it is a land dragon. The knights of her land are known to ride such beasts for transport, so she apologizes for scaring Yama. Now, Aura asks him if he has land dragons in his own world, and he obviously says no. This brings him to the realization that he has actually been summoned in another world. Now, both Aura and Yama sit down with each other, and the pretty lady explains to him what this whole world is all about. Their chat goes on for a very long time, so she asks him if he was able to grasp whatever she was trying to explain. Yama says that he did get the gist of it, and states in a summary that he is in the Capua Kingdom, which is located in another world. On top of that, he was summoned here by Aura, who is not only the queen of this world, but also used time and space magic to summon him here. This is apparently a form of magic that only someone from the royal family can use, and Aura is glad to see that Yama was able to get whatever she was telling him. She thanks our hero for confirming her words, and then goes on to enjoy a drink. Yama only looks on in awkward confusion, as Aura tells him to refer to her by her first name, as he is not a subject of her kingdom. He seems to be fine with all of this, but what he doesn't get is why she ended up choosing him out of all the other people out there. He says that he has not ever used magic. Neither has he ever even been able to lift a sword. Keeping this in mind, it doesn't seem likely that he will be of any use to her, because she would need a powerful man to handle her. The queen takes a moment, and then she tells Yama that she only has one request from him, and that is to become her groom. Yama's jaw drops because he doesn't think he heard her correctly. Aura repeats herself again by saying that she would like to make Yama her groom, so that he may eventually become her husband. In essence, she wants him to marry her, and this is all it takes for our hero to be astounded by her demands. He drops his drink out of shock and looks at Aura with disbelief. He wants to know why she would want to marry someone like him, so she decides to give him an explanation. Things may look nice and calm right now, but that was not the case some time ago. As a matter of fact, we learn that Aura's kingdom was in a state of war for a very long time before Yama came along. Even thought they were able to win this war. It came at a great price, which involved the lives of the royal family. As of now, Aura is the only surviving member of this family, as all of the direct descendants have passed away due to the war. Marriage is a duty at this point to Aura, so it's not like she can avoid it at any cost. However, since her royal family is known to have the power of space-time magic running through their veins, Aura can't just marry anyone out there. She has to make sure that this magic is passed on to her children. So the best option would be to marry someone who comes from the same royal bloodline. Hearing this only makes Yama doubt the process even more because he is from Earth. So he does not have any connection to Aura's bloodline. If he does not know how to use magic, then he is the worst possible choice for Aura to try and continue her royal heritage. The queen was expecting to hear something along those lines, so she asks Yama to allow her some more time to explain a story from the past. Now we see her narrating a tale from 5 generations ago, which can also be interpreted as 150 years ago. During this time, Aura's kingdom had a crown prince who ended up falling in love with a woman whom he could never be with. While some had believed that this girl was a commoner, others had said that she was of royal blood, but from an opposition kingdom. No one could say for sure where this girl came from. But the point of the matter was that the prince was madly in love with her, and he did not even care about his position as the next king of the land. He was only bothered by the fact that he could not be with the girl of his dreams. Since they could not be together in this world, they instead decided to be together in another world. This seems very romantic to Aura, but Yama wants to know why she is telling him so much about her kingdom. That's when she explains that our hero is the descendant from this exact same couple. The summoning spell that Aura had used would only choose a man who had strong ties to her royal bloodline, and in this case, it happened to be Yama. Since our hero has appeared in front of Aura, there is no doubt that he is the one who has descended from her kingdom's prince. As the queen looks into Yama's eyes with desire in her heart, he realizes that she might be making sense after all. After all, his deceased parents, and even his relatives back at home seem to match Aura's look. They all had darker skin when compared to normal Japanese people, but even if such a thing were to be true, he is 5 generations into the future. This could mean that he barely has any royal blood left inside him right now. Aura does admit that she was expecting such a thing to happen, but as per her calculations, it looks like Yama has a very strong match percentage with her royal family. Of course, our hero is not as strong as a direct descendant, but even then, he has an amazing amount of mana inside his body. As a matter of fact, he has enough power inside him to make him the head of a branch family. If he puts in the right amount of training, Yama could even be able to use space-time magic himself. So, keeping everything in mind, it looks like our hero has turned out to be the perfect man for the job. Now, Aura admits that she may have surprised way too many times for his own liking, so she would like to sit down with him and talk things out in a calmer manner. The queen presents Yama with the option to go back to his world if he does not wish to stay inside this fantasy world. After all, she was the one who summoned him here without his consent, so she will make sure to send him back and make it seem as if it never happened in the first place. She tells Yama to be at ease because he seems to be very worried about the fact that he won't ever be able to go back home. Now that this is out of the way, Aura says that she will still send Yama back once to his original world, even if he chooses to marry her. Basically, the act of summoning a person and sending them back to their real world is something that depends on the stars above in the sky. Aura is not able to use this magic as freely as she would like. But as of now, the alignment of the stars is going to remain the same until the next night. After that, it will return again in a month, so Aura can only make use of the window she has right now. The main problem is that if she misses the next alignment, then the one coming after that will only occur in 30 years. This is a huge shock for Yama, because 30 years is a lot of time for someone his age. He would like to confirm everything that he has just heard, so he tells Aura that no matter what he says, she will send him back to his original world the next night. If he says yes, then she will summon him again within 1 month. But if she misses that mark, when our hero will have to wait for another 30 years. This causes Aura to take a pause because she knows that such a decision will affect the course of their very lives. The queen flaunts her curvy body and asks Yama if he would not seriously consider marrying her and living in this world. This puts our hero into a train of thought because even if he says yes, then that means he will have to say goodbye to Japan for 30 years. However, if Aura is telling him the truth, then it's not a bad deal out for Yama because he is pretty much the definition of a loser boy. Not only is he a loner, he also does not have any family or girlfriend to go back to. There's also the fact that he's working for a shady company back on Earth, and the only thing that works in his favor is that he gets paid for his overtime work. Even if he were to leave that company, he would not be missing out on much, so it should be an easy decision for Yama. Now that he thinks about it, he will not have any regrets about leaving Earth, because he has nothing to live for over there. In this fantasy world, though, he will get to marry a pretty wife with an amazing body who also happens to be the queen of this kingdom. It's like a dream come true for any young boy, because he will have the perfect wife while also living the life of a royal king. Such ideas awaken his intrusive thoughts as our hero continues to fixate on Aura's twin peaks. which are indeed worthy of admiration. However, his laughter is cut short when he seems to have some kind of realization. Yama figures that if he is going to become a royal member of the kingdom, then he will have tons of work to do. After all, people in high positions don't really have much free time on their hands. He will probably need to attend ceremonies from time to time. He would also need to make greetings. And most importantly, he would be required to maintain healthy relations with the neighboring countries. This is a highly political job, so our hero wonders if he is really cut out to be a king. Since he does not want to take any risks, he decides to ask Aura about what his job role is going to be over here. To his shock and surprise, Aura says that he will not need to do anything at all. Aura explains that the reason for this is because he will be the very first husband of the Queen of Capua. Her kingdom has always been dominated by men, so the fact that she is a ruling figure over here is an instance that probably will only happen once in a lifetime. Women are not really given much authority in this land, as their main job is to serve their men and look after the household. In the case of Aura, there has never been any kind of law regarding the roles of a husband to the queen. This means that Yama is not needed to perform any kind of duties at all, which sounds like a sweet deal. On top of that, Aura tells him not to worry about his role in this world, because her job will be to satisfy all his desires, no matter what shape or form that they may take. This sounds a bit too good to be true, because nobody would ever have such amazing luck come their way. No matter how Yama thinks about it, he feels that there has to be something else to the offer that's being presented to him. He tries to figure what Aura is going to get out of this deal, and the only thing that comes to mind is his royal blood. After all, she's basically telling him that he can live like a lazy goose, which is not what a normal woman would want in a man. Maybe Aura likes men who don't do anything with their lives, but would she really give our hero so much in his favor just to have him as her husband? This is when Yama awakens the businessman inside of him and states that he can't close a deal based off such little information. After all, he might just get the rug pulled out from under him, so he would like to ask the queen a few more questions. Yama reminds himself to think like a salaryman because in business, a man's look is determined by his will. He wants to strike the best kind of deal there is, and since Aura doesn't have a problem with his questions, he decides to give his interrogation skills a shot. First, he asks her how she would go about her marriage if he were to turn down her proposal. Aura replies by saying she would simply marry a noble man who has strong blood ties to her royal family. Yama realizes that there are other marriage candidates apart from him. But in that case, he needs to know how this noble man is connected to Aura's family. His questions seem to amuse the queen, so she takes a deep breath and says that there is no one in this kingdom who has blood ties to her royal family that can even rival Yama. The best possible case that she can expect will be her grandfather's mother's descendants, and nothing more than that. Yama believes that he has caught on to something here, so he tries to use his brain. A grandfather's mother would be 4 generations before Aura, so if the ancestry line fostered any further children, then there would not have been a need to summon Yama, who if from 5 generations ago. Aura had also stated that his ancestry line was a pleasant miscalculation, so this could mean that the strength of his blood ties to Aura's family don't really mean much. Yama now starts to wonder if there is value in the fact that he is from another world. There is so much going on in our hero's head that he starts to imagine everything being a big fat lie. Suddenly, Yama comes back to his senses and reminds himself not to get too carried away. Otherwise, his caution will not be of any use. After all, if a queen like Aura really had any shady motives, then she would not have revealed that she could send him back to his world, even if he said no. A villain would probably make up an excuse for not being able to undo their summoning. After considering all the angles, our hero is sure that Aura actually wants him to consider marrying her. Yama doesn't want to play any more games, so he asks Aura straight up that if he does marry her, then would he not need to do any kind of work in the kingdom? This is when he suspects that Aura actually wants a man who will not bother her with the ruling of her kingdom. The queen simply says that she can't expect our hero to do anything for her, if she has made him forsake his past life and his memories for this new position. This is enough information for Yama, so he decides to go over the points once again for clarity. First, there's the point that there are noble men waiting in line to marry Ora. But even then, she decided to summon a boy who was not supposed to have ties even as strong as these men. However, after Yama came to her world, she realized that he actually has the best connection to her family in this world. This explains the miscalculation, but even then, it looks like the only thing that Ora wants from Yama is children. Since the very existence of a queen has never been heard of in this part of the world, Yama finds himself in a unique position to be the very first prince consort the kingdom has ever seen. Keeping these things in mind, our hero can very clearly see the goal that has been put right in front of him. He still has a few more questions left to clarify, so he continues by asking where exactly would he be staying in this country. Ora answers by saying it will most likely be the inner palace where both our hero and the queen will be living with each other, although at irregular intervals. Everything seems to be on track, so then Yama asks his final question to Ora. He wants to know that if he were to say yes to marrying Ora, then would it be fine for him to just stay confined within the inner palace? He would not speak or interact with anyone apart from Ora because he needs to fulfill his duties as a husband. Basically, our hero just wants to laze around and have fun each and every day. To his pleasant surprise, Ora gives him a smile and says that she would be more than happy to welcome that kind of attitude. This is all our hero needs to hear to realize that he has indeed hit the jackpot with Ora. The queen does not want him to do anything at all, apart from being a husband, and he fits the bill perfectly. If a noble man were to marry Ora, then he would also want to use the power that she holds as the queen. This would lead to power struggles and an ugly mess whenever they would get into an argument. In such a case, it would give rise to a dual power structure, and the kingdom would get split up into separate factions. Keeping this in mind, it would make sense to summon a person like Yama, since he is from another world, and hence has no connection to Ora's family from the outset. Now the queen tells our hero that while this may be a very big decision, and she doesn't want to rush him through it, Yama should try to take a call by the next night, because that's the only window she has to send him back to his own world. Our hero once again sits down to put his life into perspective, but he comes back with the same response. At the end of the day, he is a salaryman, so this is the best kind of deal anyone can offer him. This is his one and only chance to actually enjoy his life, rather than doing so much work just to get by. He had to bow his head down to his bosses, even when he didn't want to. And even though he had become a full member of society in itself, there's only so much that basic status can do for you. However, at the same time, our hero believes that he does have pride in the fact that he was able to do all of this on his own, so he needs to consider something even greater. It is the fact that he will have to be kept by a woman, which is not a proud thing for a man. He can't just let go of such a thing easily. Seeing him in such deep thought does make Ora a bit conscious, and we can even see tears in her eyes. She says that even as she is thinking about it, she is asking too much from our hero. First of all, she summoned him here without his permission, and now she is asking him to rush through an important decision. It's almost as if she has become the very definition of what a tyrant is supposed to be. Now, she would not be surprised if Yama refused her proposal, and then she even asks him to forgive her for making him have this chat with her. She did not mean to come across as a shady woman and enforce her wishes upon Yama. This is all it takes for our hero to be smitten by her, and he gets up from his seat to hold the queen's hand. Now Yama openly tells Ora that they should get married, and this shocks her more than anyone else. Basically, he got the look from her that confirmed her true intentions, so now he does not have any issues with being taken care of by Ora. He tells the queen that he accepts her proposal, and this makes her blush. Now,